My name's Amarjit Sahota. I'm the president and founder of Organic Monitor, which is the organizer of the Sustainable Food Summit. The Sustainable Food Summit was launched in 2009 and it looks at major developments in eco-labels and sustainability in the food industry. This is our fifth North American edition. We're hosting in San Francisco for the fifth consecutive year. This fifth edition in 2015, we're looking at food traceability, we're looking at customer behavior and sustainable ingredients. So the program and agenda is very different to what we've covered in previous years. We've looked at food traceability in the context of GM ingredients. Here in the USA, a very big issue is about the GM labeling, whether we should have GM labeling for foods or whether we shouldn't. And we covered that in a lot of detail yesterday's session, and it was some very interesting discussions about which is the way forward, whether it's going to be mandatory labeling, voluntary labeling, and the different methods and tools that you can use to detect GMs in your supply chains. The summit so far has been very interesting. There's been some very interesting discussions. I think there's been a general agreement that the number of sustainability schemes and eco-labels continues to increase, and the implications of that are still very uncertain, whether it's good for the industry or whether it's not. And one of the things which I personally liked yesterday was one of the moderators in his closing remarks stated that maybe the way forward is to have a eco-label anti-proliferation treaty. Maybe the industry needs to look at how we can limit the number of eco-labels, because we've got over 200 in the food industry. They just continue to keep on increasing. We saw a presentation by Dub on Organic an hour ago where they said that they actually have 24 certifications, and 30 out of 52 weeks in a year they're doing audits for those certifications. So that's really not the way forward for the food industry. This is our fifth edition here in North America. We find about 30% of the delegates are repeat delegates. They've either come last year, the year before, or 2-3 years before. There's a continuous attraction for two reasons. One, the summit provides a forum or a platform to learn about latest issues in sustainability in the food industry. So they come here to get clued up, to understand what's going on in the industry, what's hot, what they should be looking at. And the second reason is really networking. It's a way of bringing together like-minded individuals who care about the planet, who care about social issues. They want to make a difference. So it's a great way to bring the community together and to discuss these issues and to move forward in terms of sustainable development. In 2015, we've got two further editions. We have our European edition in Amsterdam, and we have our second Latin American edition in Brazil. We will continue to look at major sustainability developments in Europe and Latin America. For the Latin American edition, we're going to be looking at ingredients and food waste in a very big way. We're going to see how the food industry in Latin America can reduce wastage, how they can make their supply chains more efficient. In Europe, we're going to be looking at traceability a little bit more depth. We're going to look at marketing issues, and we're going to see which is the way forward for the European food industry, especially when they're still recovering from a debt crisis. How can they become more sustainable? I think it's been a very interesting summit so far. Talking about traceability was something very new for this summit. I think one thing's coming out very clear is that it's not just about GM ingredients. It's about having more transparency in the supply chains. Consumers want to know where food is produced, where it's come from, and certification schemes are a part of the solution, but not the only solution. I think one thing I found very interesting was mobile communications is going to allow consumers to connect directly with farmers and producers in the future. So the use of QR codes, scanning those codes to identify the growers, identify who's involved in the supply chain. Maybe this is the way forward, as opposed to having certification schemes or logos and labels. Maybe the way forward is just to have a QR code, which is going to give you the total transparency which consumers want.